Hey students, welcome to our sixth and final round of analysis. Let's get started. So let's go to my presentation. Okay, so you will do the chapter 42 analysis on your own. We're going to bypass that one. I did point out the area where the satire is occurring, and you guys will do that one on your own. And I want to focus on the satire that's occurring in chapter 42. So if you could go ahead and pause the video and give this excerpt a quick read, that'd be great. Go for it. Okay, so now you have hopefully read the excerpt. What satirical device do you think is occurring in this scene? What is it? All right, let's see. So there's actually two. There's situational irony, of course, but there's also mockery. And so let's talk about how these two satirical devices occur in this excerpt. So in this scene, Tom reveals that Jim has actually been free this whole time. Therefore, all of the unnecessary steps they went through and the fact that they could have died was simply a game of pretend for Tom. This is ironic, but in a very sickening way. Therefore, Tom's overly romantic view of the world is mocked here, because he, Jim, and Huck could have been killed for a pretend adventure. Tom is ultimately an idiot. This is really frustrating for Jim, who, despite being free, was denied his freedom because no one knew he was free. A little boy was given complete control over Jim's freedom. Mark Twain wants his readers to see how ridiculous and cruel this is. However, he also wants his readers to see the parallels of this moment to the Reconstruction period. Even though African Americans and Black Americans were free during this time, their freedoms were easily taken away. Twain wants this to change. So, in this scene, Tom sits up furious because there's discussion about what's going to be done with Jim, and they're discussing possibly returning him to slavery. And Tom sits up and says, "You can't do that." And they're like, "Why?" And he says, "Well, because Jim is free. When Miss Watson died, she felt guilty for enslaving Jim, and she set him free." And Tom knew this the entire time, and yet he put Jim through all of these ridiculous steps of getting out of that cabin, all of them unnecessary. And then in the end, they're running through the woods being shot at. Tom actually gets struck by a bullet, but any of them could have died, including Jim, who just wants to be with his family, and instead helps try to save these two boys, one of which who is hiding his freedom from him. And so it's a pretty terrible moment, and Tom has no idea how terrible what he's done is. And so Tom is really made to look like a fool here. And so ultimately Twain is mocking him, but the mockery is much more subtle here than maybe we've seen mockery in the past. So for instance, in the early chapters when Jim was mocked, it felt a lot more obvious that Twain was mocking, or not Twain, but that the characters were mocking Jim. And here it's far more subtle in that Twain is mocking Tom. There is a nice congruity to it where the book opens up with Jim being mocked and ends with Tom kind of making a mockery of himself. But take that as you will. And so really it is up to you. When you read that scene, when you consider this analysis, do you believe that the scene is successfully satirical, or do you think that it's evasive? And then you will also do the same things for the chapter 43 excerpt here, and also the chapter 43 excerpt here. Okay, and you'll have to consider what these mean and whether they're satirical or evasive. And then you're done with your satire or evasion tracker, and you'll move on to your final project. All right, guys, thank you so much for going through all these videos with me and working your way through the novel and through the satire or possibly evasion, depending on your opinions of the novel. And I look forward to seeing you share all the ideas you've come up with, or reading about all the ideas you've come up with in your final project. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.